In 1997, he became chair of the Department of Biology and Physics, full professor. And in 2002, became the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Kennesaw State. In 2006, he added the position of the founding dean of the Honors College. He has served as president-elect and then president of the Association of Deans and Directors of University Colleges and Undergraduate Studies, and in fact is still in that position today. For his entire career, nearly 40 years in higher education, his focus has been on understanding the factors that influence the academic success of students. His efforts on behalf of first-year students were nationally recognized when in 2009 he was selected as the Outstanding First-Year Advocate by the National Resource Center for the First-Year Experience and Students in Transition. That award was presented at the national meeting on the First-Year Experience in Orlando, Florida, in February 2009. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ralph Rascati, Dean.
Thank you, Liza. Good evening, my fellow platform members, distinguished faculty, staff, Phi Kappa Phi members, family and friends, and most especially you, the newest inductees to Phi Kappa Phi. It's my distinct honor to be with you tonight and to speak with you. Those who know me well know that I tend to be a very practical person, one who is not prone to making long speeches full of flowery language, which is probably a good thing for you. So when I was asked to stand here and speak to you today, I thought long and hard about what to say. I asked myself, what is important to these students? I thought about what was important to me when I was a college student contemplating life after college. Believe me when I tell you that took a lot of thinking. These days I have a hard time remembering last week. Remembering what I felt like nearly 50 years ago. Well, let's just say the difficult takes a little time and the impossible a little longer. And then it came to me. It's not important what I knew then, but rather what I've learned in the last 50 years that I wish I knew then. Like all of you, I was a good student. I was used to earning A's in high school and determined to continue to earn A's in college. After all, in the classroom, it's the A's that count, right? That's what we all strive for. What I've learned over the years, however, is that as important as the A's are, in life, it's all about the B's. So here goes. The secret to life, according to Rascati. College is about the A's, but life is all about the B's. You ready? Here goes, your first B. Be productive. Not just busy. Enjoy what you do. Find joy in whatever you are doing. As you think about your future, it has been said that the key to success in a career is to find what you enjoy and then find a way to get paid for doing it. However, beyond a certain level of comfort, it's not about the money. If your financial worries are whether you can afford a new car or a used one, and not about having to make a decision between eating today or paying your rent, well, beyond that point, money adds to your comfort, but not to your happiness. So it's best to do what you enjoy and enjoy what you do. That leads to a productive life of satisfaction. Be compassionate. Give back. Compassion is about doing something for someone less fortunate than you. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture or a huge sacrifice. Tutor someone. Volunteer at a soup kitchen. Get involved with a church group. Make a microloan to someone in the developing country. A few dollars can help someone develop a business that will feed them and their families for years to come. The repayment rate is actually quite high on these loans, but the real and more rewarding return on investment is in knowing that you've given someone a hand up and not a hand out. That's the real repayment. In fact, a brain imaging study revealed that people gain as much happiness just from seeing a charitable act as from receiving money themselves. Imagine how much better you will feel knowing that you were responsible for helping someone else succeed. Be a seeker of truth. There's an old story about a man who was down on his hands and knees underneath a street lamp, looking for something. And another man comes along and asks him what he's doing. And he says, I'm looking for my watch. And so he says, I'll get down and help you. And so they're crawling around on their hands and knees, looking in the gutter, looking around the street. No success. So finally the second man asked the first. He says, are you sure you lost your watch here? And the man says, no, I lost it down that dark alley over there. And the second man says, well, why are you looking here? And the first man says, because this is where the light is. Don't look where the light is. Look where the answers are. If you're going to seek truth, you need to learn to look where the answers really lie. And sometimes they're not in the best lit places. Be resilient. How many of you have seen the movie Apollo 13? A few. It's the true story of the third mission to land on the moon. Early in the mission, an onboard explosion crippled the spacecraft, and it was uncertain if they could bring the spacecraft safely back to Earth and keep the crew alive. In the movie, the flight director, Gene Kranz, played by Ed Harris, utters what has now become the famous line, failure is not an option. Well, in fact, Gene Kranz never actually said that. A variant of that line is actually attributed to one of the engineers working on solving the problem. But Kranz really embodied the spirit of that thought, and in fact, later on he used it as the title of a book he wrote about his experiences at NASA. However, in life, failure is a reality. Not everything you try is going to work. Certainly not the way you want it to. The key is to turn your mistakes into a learning experience. We grow more from analyzing our mistakes, our failures, so that we don't repeat them, than from our successes. Furthermore, how you handle failure is a testament to your character, as much as how you handle success. There is a song. Many of you won't remember because you were probably 2 at the time it was released. The song was called Tub Thumping, and it was recorded by a punk rock group called Chumbawamba. If the title means nothing to you, I'm not surprised, but you might recognize the lyrics of the chorus, which go, I get knocked down, but I get up. You're never going to keep me down. So when life knocks you down, learn from it. Get up and keep going. Which brings us to the next B. Be optimistic. Believe that the future will be better than the past. I recently read a book by Jeffrey Buller entitled Positive Academic Leadership: How to Stop Putting Out Fires and Start Making a Difference. The basic premise of the book and the concept of positive leadership is the belief that you can overcome obstacles and make a difference, that you can make the future better than the past. It's not a matter of blindly hoping that things will be better, or of expecting that things will somehow magically be better in the future than they are today. As Buller points out, hope is not a strategy. Rather, Buller's premise is that you need to be persistent in your journey toward a goal and have the confidence in yourself that you'll find a way to achieve it. Be adventurous. Push beyond your comfort zone. There's little satisfaction in accomplishing that which you already know you can do well. The real satisfaction is in doing that which is difficult. In 1962, then President John F. Kennedy talked about some of humankind's great accomplishments: climbing the highest mountains, flying solo across the Atlantic Ocean, as well as his own goal for the nation's space effort to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. He described those activities this way. He said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and to do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win." Now, Gillian Kinsey, Associate Director for the Center for Post-Secondary Research and the Nessie Institute, which administers the National Survey of Student Engagement, which some of you may have taken sometime over the last 2 or 3 years. Gillian often uses the term positive restlessness to describe the concept of never being satisfied with the status quo, of always striving for improvement. Finally, be flexible. You don't always know in what direction life may take you. So when opportunity knocks, be prepared to open the door. Let me tell you a story. A student of mine graduated from Kennesaw State in 1990 as a biology major. She actually started out as an English major, changed majors to biology. Her start as an English major is important to the story, however. So I want you to keep that in mind. Immediately after graduation, she went to work as a bench technician for a company called Serologicals in Norcross. She worked there for a few years and then took a job at CryoLife. Some of you may be familiar with CryoLife. It's just down the road from here. They specialize in cryopreserving tissues for transplant. She went to work in their research department. And while there, they discovered that she had a talent for writing. And so they asked her to start writing some of their applications for approval of medical devices. It's a process you have to go through with the Food and Drug Administration to get medical devices approved. And there's a lot of proposal writing and report writing that goes into that. So when they found that she had a talent for writing, they asked her to do that. So she moved from being a research technician to working in their regulatory affairs department. All because she was willing to accept an opportunity that came along. A few years later, she had her first child. She was living in Dawsonville and decided that driving to Kennesaw to work was just too much time away from home, too long a trip. But with her experience at CryoLife, she decided to become an independent consultant in the field of regulatory affairs. Was quite successful at it, but then found as her son grew older that traveling was becoming more difficult for her. So she is now a vice president for regulatory affairs for a company called Femisys here in the metro Atlanta area. All because she was willing to take the opportunities that came to her and use the skills that she had to promote her own career. My own story. As Dr. Davis mentioned, I started as a biologist. Started really with the intention of becoming a research scientist. When I went to Oak Ridge, that was really what I wanted to do. But I had the opportunity to work with some students on research projects and found that I had a passion for teaching. So I went to Illinois State University, then to here to Kennesaw State. I've been here 30 years now. Took advantage of the opportunity to become department chair and then to move into the Office of Academic Affairs. In 2006, I had the opportunity to become Dean of University College, a relatively new academic unit on campus that primarily focused on the efforts involved in helping first-year students succeed, as well as others. And then in 2013, was asked by President Papp and Provost Harmon to establish the Honors College. And so in January of 2014, we did that. So we've been in operation for about 1.5 years now as a college, although the honors program has been here since the mid-90s. It's a matter of being flexible. I don't do much biology anymore, but most times I don't miss it. So let me conclude with 2 final stories. One goes back to when I became department chair. It was my first administrative position. I had a colleague who was then a professor in the sociology department here, who called me up after finding out that I'd accepted the position as department chair and told me, in no uncertain terms, that I had been seduced by the dark side of the force and gone over to administration. And I said to her, I said, Carol, be careful of the words you choose. Someday they may come back to haunt you. 2 years later, I was on a search committee to hire a new director for the A.L. Burris Institute of Public Service here on campus. Carol was offered the position and accepted. So I called her up. And I said, Carol, you remember what you told me 2 years ago? Welcome to the dark side. Now, why do I tell this story? Well, the truth is, I don't consider what I do the dark side. My administrative work, first as department chair, then as Dean of University College, then as founding Dean of the Honors College, has allowed me to have a positive effect on students' lives that is amplified far beyond what I could have accomplished as a single faculty member. Because I was able to influence other faculty, who then in turn influenced multiple students. So that there is a multiplicative effect of my actions. I am moved and motivated by the look on students' faces when something I have had a hand in has transformed the way they look at the world and their role in it. So I'll tell you one final story. Another student of mine actually graduated at the same time as Lisa, the first student I told you about. His name was Rick. He came to work for me in the lab. He was a solid C student. Wasn't all that motivated, but he thought he'd try his hand at lab work. Well, it turned him on. It made a difference to him. From there forward, just because of his interest in what we were doing in the lab, he turned himself into an A student. He had the capability, he just never had the motivation. Now, obviously, he didn't graduate with a 4.0 or even a 3.5. He was somewhere around a 3.0 by the time he graduated, because he had a lot of bad grades to make up for it. But he turned himself around, went to graduate school, University of Tennessee, in a biochemistry program. Got his doctorate, did a postdoctoral research fellowship at St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and now runs his own laboratory for Abbott Labs in Chicago. But the key for me, when he got his doctoral degree, he sent me a copy of his dissertation. And the acknowledgement page on that dissertation was dedicated to me as the person who changed his life and made him think about the kind of career that he really wanted and turned him into a successful student. Now, I think he exaggerated a bit. I think there were others that had influence on him. But it is that type of acknowledgement that is what makes my dad. In fact, made my career. It is those kinds of acknowledgments, knowing that you have had a positive influence on somebody's life, that makes a difference in how you view yourself in the work that you do. What greater satisfaction can there be than to know and be told that you've had a positive influence on someone's life? So, if you haven't already done so, starting right now, be productive. Do what you enjoy and enjoy what you do. Be compassionate to others. Be a seeker of truth. Be resilient and optimistic. Be adventurous and flexible. And finally, be a positive influence on those around you. Thank you for listening. May you take these words and live a happy life of fulfillment and satisfaction.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rascati. As we begin the induction of our students, it's our pleasure first to recognize our faculty honoree whom we're inducting tonight, Dr. William Rice, who is the chair of the English department. Would you come forward, Dr. Rice? We want to celebrate all that Dr. Rice has done for his students in the English department and across the universe. Congratulations, Dr. Rice. Dr. McNeil, all of the following individuals were elected in accordance with the conditions specified by our chapter's bylaws, and they have accepted our chapter's invitation to membership in the society. I therefore present them to you as candidates for induction. No, I don't. In a moment. All right, students, I'm going to ask you to come line up over here to my right. You will be crossing over as I announce your name to receive your certificate. You don't have to line up in alphabetical order. I'll call your number. As I announce your name, please come forward in front of the stage and receive your medallion, your pin, and your certificate. Let us